We've also had some in parts of Metairie, of course, and around the Kenner area. Parts of the West Bank have gotten some heavy rain too. But just showing you our latest radar trend, here's what we have. And again, the good news is that things are easing at least a little bit for a lot of spots. The interstate, at least at I-10, cars moving again. Although there is rain, you're going to be dealing with rain as you head out in New Orleans or over into New Orleans East, the West Bank, pretty much the entire metro right now of New Orleans, seeing those showers and storms, although not as heavy as before. So again, here's that look at the camera. So if you've heard of this, maybe people texting you from stopped cars, or have heard of this situation on I-10, thankfully things are moving again. Let's see, you can see some movement there. Kind of on the left-hand side, looks pretty slow, of course, but it does, the cars have been streaming so far over the past several minutes that we've been watching. So it's still going to be a really slow, probably backed up situation, but we are looking at least movement, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, Alexandra's, Chris Franklin, I was driving in that area about an hour ago and delayed coming into work just because of the backed up traffic. And it's not only this. We've seen the high water reported at the Canal Boulevard under the railroad track there, 4 foot of water. Already had a car stranded from viewer photos. So that is still very high. We've not had any updated reports. That was not long ago. And we know it does take a while for that area to drain, as well as Carrollton, the underpass there near the Costco going toward Tulane Avenue. That too is underwater. Lights were flashing, the red lights flashing that this intersection is closed because of floodwaters. Cars were still trying to go through it. I did see coming into work earlier some stranded cars, and also cars then turning against traffic on Carrollton, trying to avoid that standing water. So in those 3 areas that we know of that become major bottlenecks when the water floods, I-10 at West End, kind of near Metairie Road, you've got the big pumping station there. The Carrollton underpass, as well as Canal Boulevard under the railroad track. These are all areas that have the reported high water. We were showing you the image there of I-10, very much backed up. I mean, the traffic there is horrendous. It is moving now, but it is going to take some time to alleviate that standing traffic that has been probably stationary for almost an hour now, maybe not quite an hour, when the heaviest of the rainfall began. As Alexandra was saying, we are starting to see some waning of the heavier rainfall, but we're not done with the rain. Notice along this boundary, starting to weaken, as she had mentioned, from Slidell, so good news for folks in St. Tammany Parish, but still very much continuing basically from New Orleans east into Jefferson Parish, including both sides of the river. Now, what we've seen on the west bank of JP, it's not as heavy, but we also have that rainfall that continues to fire up there. So wouldn't be out of the question to see maybe the flood warning extended a little bit farther south because of that rainfall that is continuing. Now, the intensity of the rainfall is not nearly as heavy as it was earlier either. So there is some improvement, but it's not done yet. And so what rain that we've already seen fallen, we will see those accumulations added to, and some of the rainfall rates, while not as heavy, they have been consistent. So again, where we've started to see some improvements, in other locations it may not possibly worsen, but it may be a little bit more of a delay before we start to see those areas improve. As we've mentioned from our traffic cameras, I don't know if we can pull back up our I-10 at the, there it is. Traffic is moving, but you can see off in the distance at West End, so this is 610 at West End. Traffic is, we cannot control this camera, kind of widen out, but you can see how far backed up the traffic is, and it is very, very slow to see that improvement. So at least the interstates are moving. The problem is you've gotten now almost 45 minutes to an hour of traffic that was kind of becoming stalled there, and now all of that has to be relieved. It looks like emergency officials moving out possibly one flooded car. You see kind of a small white sedan off on the side of the interstate. That one has been there. That's another stalled vehicle, so waiting to see when they can get a tow truck to move that. Also, we'll notice cars having to now avoid that stalled vehicle until they're able to get that one moved out of the way. So it is going to be a slow go. These are areas, again, 610 at West End, I-10 at Carrollton, as well as the railroad track underpass on Canal Boulevard, all areas that have standing water. May start to see some improvement there, where at least cars that have been stalled, or not stalled, but have been stuck, are able to start moving out now. You're just going to want to avoid these areas because the traffic has been very much at a standstill for the last 45 minutes to an hour, and it's just a slow process to see all of that cleared out of the way. If we can switch back over to radar now, just to give you again what Alexander was showing you, some rainfall estimates of these areas where we have seen this boundary just set up over the metro area and continuing to provide heavy rainfall. There are some breaks in the rain, so that is some good news. And also the rainfall intensity has come down a bit, so the rain isn't as heavy as it was earlier. One of the reasons why, even once the rainfall is cleared out of the area, you're still going to see this flash flood warning in place, because it allows for the number of hours usually to allow for normal drainage. One thing that is not really working in our favor, a lot of folks are saying, well, we've been so dry, doesn't that help? Wouldn't the ground be able to absorb more rainfall? In most cases, yes, but when you have very dry ground, as dry as we've been with the drought, it actually becomes more like cement, and that water isn't able to be absorbed right away and becomes more of a runoff issue. So yes, we've been dry, yes, the soil obviously can accommodate a lot of the rainfall and begin absorbing it, but because we've been so dry for so long and the extent of the drought over southeast Louisiana, our ground has become more or less cement, so it's become more of a runoff issue. Now, because of the saturating rains that we've seen today, we may start to see those soil conditions improve a bit in order for them to begin absorbing more of that rainfall. It's just initially, it's more of a pavement type surface where it's more of a runoff problem, and that's one of the big issues we usually have with street flooding, is that runoff of the rainfall. Some of the rainfall estimates that we can see, some of the highest totals are kind of along just north of City Park. I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm going to erase my totals so I can kind of replot them here, just to give folks kind of an estimate. So right north of north of Fillmore, toward the lakefront, almost 6 inches of rainfall out near the Seabrook Bridge, over an inch, and a little bit more near City Park, over 4 inches of rainfall. So now you're starting to get into these areas. Why you've seen the flooding? Almost 4.5 to near 5 inches of rainfall in this area at 610, I-10, City Park, Carrollton. You're looking at 3.5, 2.5 to 4, almost 5 inches of rainfall. And again, these are rain estimates. These are the radar estimates of some of the totals. We've seen across parts of Metairie and other parts of Jefferson Parish near 3.5 to almost 4 inches of rainfall, almost 2 inches of rainfall as you get a little bit closer to the airport. And as far as the official gauges go, we can take a look at what some of those totals are officially. And again, these are more scattered across the region and not necessarily very well representative of some of the totals we've seen in some more of the metro area. But notice almost 0.4 of an inch at Kenner Airport. However, look at the total in Slidell, 4.88 inches of rainfall. That over the course of a month would be great. Over the course of a few hours, big problem. Now, at least in Slidell, we have seen the rain abate by quite a bit. As a matter of fact, I think all of the rainfall in Slidell is done with now. So improving conditions, but folks in Slidell, you've seen almost 5 inches of rainfall. And that's just from the one observing station, so that could be even higher in some other locations. At least we do seem to have improving conditions. We're not done with the rain yet, but we do have improving conditions. We've seen 610 at West End cleared. Looks like they still have one stalled, and kind of looking off to the side of our camera, looks like still one stalled vehicle that they need to move, but at least traffic itself is moving. Still have the steady, kind of moderate pockets of heavier rainfall now. That should begin to wane over the course of the next hour, hour and a half, 2 hours or so. Again, our computer models not doing a great job of forecasting these very well, but it's something that we will continue to monitor. Hopefully we will start to see further improvements in a lot of the streets that have had reports of flooding. It's almost too many to mention the number of reports that we're getting into the Weather Service, as well as our newsroom, of the streets that have flooded. One of those afternoons, if you can avoid being out on the road, good idea to do it. Again, if there's any silver lining here is that it is Labor Day, so a lot of folks are off of work, so we shouldn't see the traffic issues on the interstates and other roadways as we approach the 4, 5, and 6 o'clock hour. But we do have a lot of folks that were out of town and are now trying to get back in, and that could be a little bit more of an issue as we go through the afternoon. So some improvements, not done with the rainfall yet. We will continue to monitor this and break into programming if necessary. But stay with us online. We will be updating social media as well as WWLTV.com through the afternoon if there is any new information. For now, for Alexander Cranford, I'm Chief Meteorologist Chris Franklin.